Hello then, and welcome to CGTN's special coverage of Chinese President Xi Jinping's state visit to Hungary. I'm Li Dongning in Beijing. Now, Hungarian President Tamas Sulyok and Prime Minister Viktor Orban are about to hold a welcome ceremony in Budapest. And the Chinese president arrived late Wednesday for the third and also the final stop of his European tour. Xi and his wife, Peng Liyuan, were received by Hungarian Prime Minister Viktor Orban and his wife, Aniko Levoy, at Budapest airport. Prime Minister Orban extended a warm welcome to President Xi for his visit. Xi told Orban that he believes this visit will facilitate the development of bilateral relations. In a written statement released upon his arrival, President Xi said China and Hungary will outline a new blueprint for bilateral cooperation and development. And he said this new blueprint will raise bilateral ties to a higher level. And the Chinese president said, regardless of changes in the international landscape, China and Hungary have always viewed their ties from a broad and long-term perspective. Hungary was one of the first countries to establish diplomatic relations with China. They elevated their bilateral relationship to a comprehensive strategic partnership in 2017. And for the latest, our reporters are joining us from Budapest. Dong Xue is at the Buddha Palace and Evangelos Sipsas is at the Parliament of Budapest. I'll go to you, Dong Xue, first. So what can we expect from President Xi's visit to Hungary?
Sure, Dongning, as you mentioned, Chinese President Xi Jinping is about to attend the welcoming ceremony held by Hungarian President Tamas Sulyok and Prime Minister Viktor Orban at this Budapest Palace, or the official residence of the Hungarian president. Well, the preparations are underway. As you can see, we've seen national flags, from China and Hungary both being hanging up behind me. And President Xi Jinping arrived in Budapest yesterday, the capital city of Hungary, after visits to France and Serbia. Well, this is the first visit to Europe by Chinese leader in 5 years. And upon his arrival, President Xi wrote an article in a leading newspaper in Hungary saying he hopes that through this visit, China and Hungary can continue the traditional friendship, deepen mutually beneficial cooperation, and elevate the China-Hungary comprehensive strategic partnership to a new height. Well, during the two-day visit, President Xi is expected to meet with the President of Hungary, Tamas Sulyok, and the Prime Minister, Viktor Orban. They will discuss bilateral relations and economic collaboration, and multiple deals and agreements are also expected to be signed during President Xi's visit here in Budapest. And according to Hungarian Foreign Minister, he also said that the Chinese president's visit to Hungary holds historic significance for his country, adding that economic cooperation will occupy a prominent place among the key topics up for discussion. Well, Hungary is the first member of the European Union to join China's Belt and Road Initiative, and a shining example of which is the Budapest-Belgrade Railway, which will be completed soon. And for the visit in Hungary, it also coincides with the 75th anniversary of diplomatic ties between the two nations. Well, obviously, there's a lot to discuss: bilateral relations, economic collaboration, of which will top the agenda, as well as the people-to-people connectivity to be expanded to better the bilateral relations. Dongning.
Right, it seems that it's going to be another fruitful trip during President Xi's visit to Europe. Our correspondent Dong Xue reporting from Buddha Palace in Budapest. Now let's turn to our correspondent Evangelos Sipsas, who is joining us from the Parliament of Budapest. Evangelo, hello there. So what have the reactions been to President Xi's visit in Hungary?
Well, I have to say that there's much anticipation for this visit. Although the Chinese president has arrived last night, the people here in the capital of Budapest are quite excited and filled with joy and pride of this visit, because it is the first visit the Chinese president has come in Europe since the COVID-19 pandemic, and he chose Hungary, one of his 3 stops. So the people that we spoke to were pretty much saying that this is a positive move from the Chinese side. It shows respect to the Hungarian people. It shows pride to the people who are living here in Hungary, and they're looking forward for these discussions that are going to be taking place today. As the reporter mentioned, there's a number of discussions. 18 agreements are going to be signed, so the people here are quite excited about that. I know it's difficult to see, but there's a bridge just down down over there, actually, that is filled with Hungarian and Chinese flags. We spoke to also local media. There's an article that is circulating on the media today about the Chinese and Hungarian relations. It's about connectivity and peace, because as the reporter also mentioned, one of those discussions is going to be about the peace deal in Ukraine. So the people here in Hungary are pretty much excited to see what is for them, what is for the Hungarian economy out of this visit, and what it means for the people-to-people exchanges when it comes to Hungary and China.
All right, thank you very much. Our correspondent Evangelos Sipsis reporting from Budapest. And ahead of Xi Jinping's arrival, the Hungarian broadsheet Magyar Nemzet published an article on Wednesday by the president. And President Xi expresses a willingness to renew the two countries' friendship and work on a new blueprint for relations and cooperation in the new era. President Xi begins by emphasizing the profound friendship between China and Hungary as the two nations mark the 75th anniversary of diplomatic relations. He said China and Hungary need to forge greater synergy in development strategies and strive for new highlights in practical cooperation. He says both countries need to lead regional cooperation and keep to the right direction of China-Europe relations and join hands to address global challenges. Xi Jinping says China looks forward to working closely with its Hungarian friends to write new stories of friendship as relations embark on a golden voyage. Now, CGTN's Evangelos Sipsis again has more from Budapest.
The printing presses are working hard at the Hungarian Democrat, a weekly political magazine. The top story, of course, the visit of China's President Xi Jinping and discussion of how relations between the two countries could develop.
Xi Jinping kínai elnök.
We are all aware of the global influence of Chinese President Xi Jinping, one of the top political leaders in the world. We have sought the unique insights of Chinese journalists residing in Hungary, who have provided us with their perspectives on the visit's significance.
Under the title Connectivity and Peace, the article highlights the importance of Chinese investments in Hungary. Some believe the country is right to court new trade partners alongside its more traditional ones.
We understand that healthy, friendly relations are very important for Hungary. China is an important player in the Hungarian economy.
In Budapest, security is tight across the capital, while Chinese and Hungarian flags adorn the streets. Hungary is one of the 3 stops that the Chinese president will be making on his European tour. And residents here seem to be warming up to closer ties with China.
I've been living in Hungary for 6 years, but because previously the president of China also came to Hungary before, I think about 5 years ago. I think this time that when the president come again, it will help to increase the relationship between China and Hungary again to make the business, economy, and partnership better.
The trade relationship between the two countries, it's at an all-time high, with transactions totaling over $10 billion last year, and estimates that trade will triple by the end of this year. During President Xi's visits, the two sides are expected to discuss how to further boost economic cooperation and trade, particularly in the fields of infrastructure, construction, and energy. Evangelos Sipsis for CGTN, Budapest.
And with President Xi in Hungary on a state visit, Hungarian officials, scholars and media professionals are expecting more cooperation between the two countries.
Wants to connect Hungarian and Chinese companies to improve relationship in logistics as well. And of course, digitalization is very, very important as well, AI and so on. We want to stay open for investors, and we are believing connectivity. And this is not just related to the trade or investment, but people to people, friendship and connections.
I expect that the economical relations will develop much more smoothly than we did it in the first 10 years of BRI. So always a presidential visit, it's a good occasion to establish the basis of the new development.
I think the most important is the economic and technological cooperation. That is very important for Hungary because Hungary's national aim is to catch up with Western Europe, and for that we need FDI. We are quite sure that in the coming years China will be our #1 investor. So we really need those jobs. We really need those investments, and they bring us high technology here that we lack.
The two countries getting closer and closer in the last 10 years. Started with the BRI initiative. Mr. Xi Jinping and the Chinese government announced this initiative in 2013. And of course, Hungarian government announced the opening to East policy. And this is a good basic for the cooperation of the two countries.
Right now, for more insights, we're now joined in the studio by Ms. Song Xin, founder of the Symbol think tank and a former policy advisor at the European Parliament, and Professor Liu Zhiqin, as well, a senior research fellow at the Chongyang Institute of Financial Studies at Renmin University of China. Welcome to our special coverage. First of all, a question for both of you. Hungary is the last stop for President Xi's European tour, and his visit coincides, of course, with the 75th anniversary of diplomatic ties between China and Hungary. So, Ms. Song, what do you expect from the visit? Everybody is expecting some economic enhancement. What about you?
Well, I think there are three very important points. First, I think this is a confirmation of the fact that both Hungary and China, they have reached to this consensus to create a stable environment for bilateral relationship at the level of at the economic level, political level, also social level. So economic level, of course, I mean, because trade and investment is actually the cornerstone of the bilateral relationship. In the research our think tank published last year, we calculate Chinese investment in Hungary. Let's take the example of the battery industry. The Chinese investors invested more than 12 billion euro during the year 2022 and 2023. That is a big number for Hungary, because even in 2023, as a whole, Hungary just received 12 billion in total, 13 billion in total. So you can,
a big number.
Right. So I think that is extremely important actually for Hungary to receive all the FDI from China. But I think this time that will go much beyond. Why? Because Hungary doesn't only need investment like before, because German companies did it. US company did. They really need is capacity building. It means for them to really master the technology and to do it also with their local companies. And that is really to help them to build the local strengths, economic strengths, technological strengths, and that is important for them.
Do you agree, Professor Liu, that capacity building is very crucial here?
Yes, I think so. But beyond this, I think they have some other important points to be noticed. First, I think the visit of President Xi Jinping to Hungary is a showcase to the rest of the world, especially to those European countries who are always taking China as a threat or the skeptical partner of the economically and politically. And Hungary can tell them the true China, what China can help them, what China can bring to Hungary, what China can benefit all the partners we have. So this is show the Chinese sincerity, Chinese honesty, and Chinese inclusiveness. In fact, that the people can see in reality what China is. Because in the past years, China's image is already tortured or disputed by some Western media. Now, the Hungary can show that the true China, that what we can do from Belt and Road Initiative, from all politically, diplomatically, culturally. So in this way, that we show not only the railway, the facilities, and also how the efficiency of China's modernization. But this is really a good textbook to show to the rest of the world what China can bring to others, not only Hungary.
especially any European country.
Yes,
this is a very good example of how two countries build up a healthy relationship instead of being zero-sum. President Xi says in his article published in the Hungarian media that our two countries need to lead regional cooperation and keep to the right direction of China-Europe relations in general. So let's get back to the topic. How important is the relations between China and Hungary to the whole picture of China-EU relations?
Right, I think I totally agree with Professor Liu. I think China's image has been damaged during the past 5 years by a lot of Western medias. And in Europe, there is a very popular narrative saying like right now China is more a competitor, even a rival to Europe than really a partner as before. I think this is false because actually right now we are getting into a transition period from the previous, which was the simple complementarity towards a complex complementarity period. So still, I think China and European countries, including Hungary, are still complementary in a lot of aspects. But we need to really dig more, and dig deeper in order to find the potential. And I think this is definitely a showcase, the cooperation between China and Hungary, to tell all the Western countries, including also the US, that there is actually a lot of space and room, not only for negotiation, but also for real cooperation. And in order to create actually this kind of complementarity, you have to, set back all this kind of prejudice and this kind of judgment, saying China is a rival. I think that is a very good example.
This kind of this theory actually works for any bilateral relations between any two countries, that you can be different, but you can be complementary at the same time. That's philosophy of life, isn't it? So you need to find the complementary points and to build up a healthier relationship instead of a volatile or very hostile relations instead. Hungary, talking about Hungary-China relations, we've been saying that the bilateral relations has been pretty good, but how good is that? Hungary, as we know, was one of the first countries to establish diplomatic ties with China. Actually, the country established diplomatic ties with China only 5 days after the founding of the PRC. And okay, now let's go to Budapest and see the light pictures of the welcoming ceremony prepared for visiting Chinese President Xi Jinping and his wife, Madame Peng Liyuan. We'll continue to give you more light feed on that later on. And back to the relations between China and Hungary, Professor Liu. As I said, Hungary established ties 5 days after the founding of the People's Republic of China. But how good has that relation been now, the current status? How would you assess the current status?
In China, there is a very famous word that a friend in need is a friend indeed. If we can see when the new China at that time, what we need a friend, a true friend who can recognize a new China. So at that time, that Hungary was among the first countries that recognized New China. That gave us a very important support. From the recent days, I saw the TV documentary film that give the record of that time. So all these countries that recognize China to give support is a full enthusiasm for China's modernization from that time, because China want to stand up, want to grow up, want to become stronger, but without the friends we can do nothing. So that's a support from Hungary and the other countries really very valuable for China, especially for new China. So since then, that with the relation between Hungary and China is developed very healthy, as you mentioned. The health is quite important because no matter how difficult is international conditions, how turbulence that we are meeting, for instance, the Cold War and the other difficulties, but always with both countries and the people are really close friends, are true friends and brothers. Even we depart 1,000 miles away, but really our hearts always close together. That's why the people in Hungary always told us that we are really real friends and real brothers, because we suffered the similar problem and difficulties in the old time. Now both are trying to have a better life, have a better the development. So this is the basic points. That's why we say that his visit from Xi Jinping to Hungary that will upgrade the highlights of the bilateral relations.
Well, Hungary is not only the first country who established diplomatic relations with China. It's also the first European country to join China's initiative of Belt and Road. How has Belt and Road initiative been working to benefit Hungary, Ms. Song?
Right. I mean, Hungary has always been seen as a black sheep, actually, among the European or Western countries. I mean, the real question here is why, and why does Hungary always have this kind of different, like, perspective or approach towards the rest of the world? I think the reason is very simple. Hungary used to be a part of the Soviet Union, and then after the Cold War, and Hungary actually embraced the western part of the world. And what happened later, in 2008, when the financial crisis happened, Hungary was a disaster because more than 90% of its banking system were privatized by the US actually investors, and they all left. And they left a disaster, almost a bankrupted country to the Hungarian people. And the GDP actually crushed by 1/3 during the during the following 3 years. So it was horrible. So Hungary, from that moment, I think the Hungarian elites, they understood they could not only rely on one part, no matter it was the Soviet Union during the Cold War or after Soviet Union, the West. They should have their autonomy. Right. They should have their own strategy, which can serve their interests. I mean, by joining the Belt and Road Initiative, they benefited largely actually from this. They receive a lot of infrastructure investment, and also some other investors from, as I said, lithium battery, from EV, and also from solar panel. That created a lot of job opportunity and helped the Hungarian people to get more prosperity, and also help the local actually society to build the capacity. And that is really their own interest. So I think the question here is why actually the other countries don't want to see Hungary to have this kind of strategic actually approach.
Indeed, real benefits are crucial here instead of any other things. All right, well, I'll be getting back to you for more discussions later. Now, Martin Nagy, Hungary's national economy minister, praises the economic ties between China and Hungary. He believes there is more space for cooperation in fields such as electric vehicles and telecommunications. Take a listen.
And of course, we are competing to have the Great Wall Motors to launch production here in Hungary. Of course, we are in a competition now because we are believing that the electric vehicle transition is a very important thing, and we have to accelerate it in the future. Of course, this means more trade because it's more production, and therefore, for example, logistics is very important in the future. So we wants to connect Hungarian and Chinese companies to improve relationship in logistics as well. And of course, digitalization is very, very important as well, AI and so on. So everybody knows about the names Huawei. So we are building a strong relationship between Hungarian telecommunication company, for example, 4G, and the Chinese Huawei. They are great friends.
All right, now let's get back to our studio guests. Now, trade between China and Hungary has risen over 70%, as Ms. Song just said, in the past decade. But exactly what areas of economic and trade cooperation are there, and what are some notable achievements in those sectors, Professor Liu?
I think we should talk in two parts. In the first part, that the first 5 years, the trade between our two countries are in different products. For instance, normal manufacturing, machinery tools, and other equipment related with the agricultural equipment, and also with the construction and construction materials, for instance, logistic also. But in recent 5 years, I think this upgraded to high tech for new innovation, for instance, for the information technology transmission, and also for mobile phone, for instance, because mobile phone developed in Hungary also very fast with the Chinese technology and assistant. and also in other areas for biotechnologies, and especially in the green technology development, because China is the major force to push this development all over the world. So Hungary was we take this as a bridgehead that to the European countries. So it will have more influences for the rest of the countries in Europe, so that we have more products, especially for like Song just mentioned, so for the solar energy and the new batteries also could be transmitted and transferred also transported from the Hungary to other areas. So with bilateral relations, I think the technology skills will become more important also in the future.
Indeed, and Ms. Song also mentioned a lot of specific areas that China and Hungary have been working for and actually received the benefits for both sides already. But how exactly do those, the influence in those sectors or the impacts of those sectors influence the long-term economic strategy in Hungary?
Well, apart from the creation of new jobs and the prosperity of wealth, I think the real point here is helping Hungary to move up the global supply chain. That is what Hungary asked, actually. When Premier Orban was elected in 2010, and his national plan was very clear, is first to re-industrialize the country, and second is opening up to the east. And these two are actually combined. Because they understand if they want to, in order to create a real economic strength, they can no longer rely on the Western investment, which focus mostly on financial sector, and that sector could not really help Hungary to build up very healthy economic strength. So they are coming to, they are actually turning to the Eastern Asian countries in order to seek for more investment. And Chinese investors, they invest largely in Hungary, not only because they want to just manufacture the product and then sell them to the rest of Europe. It's part of their project. But the real thing is it helps Hungary to become the third producer of lithium battery at global level. That is a huge achievement because Hungary, like 10 years before, in 2014, was nothing in this area. And this started from 2015. So within 9 years, they achieved a lot by receiving a lot of investment from China, South Korea, and Japan. And Chinese investors actually played a very constructive role in this process. And I think that is what the Chinese investor really did in order to benefit the local economy.
Yeah, the lithium investment is a very I don't know if it's fair to say it's a typical example of Chinese direct investment in Hungary. But in a larger picture, Professor Liu, how has China's direct investment in Hungary been working? Does it fit into the general economic landscape of the country?
I think because Hungary is also a developing country in all fields that they need further modernized technologies. That's why both sides can have more areas and regions to have deepening cooperation, especially for the high tech and the innovation. Of course, China already has advanced technologies in manufacturing and also in research institute and in different areas, especially also in food, agriculture, for instance. These are products from both sides will have more benefits from both people because we imported quite a lot from the Hungary, the agriculture product. Many people think that Hungary is not a real agriculture producer, but actually they have real good wines and good high quality crops.
I've never tried a Hungarian wine. Is that good?
Yeah, you can try
it. Very good. I should try it.
Yeah.
That's a good taste, you see. And also with the beef, with some local meat, you can have a good combination of the taste. So from the agriculture, I saw some exhibitions here in China, in the China's Agriculture Museum or somewhere that you can see the imported product from Hungary. It's welcomed by the clients and the audience.
Talking about that, among Central European countries, Hungary has the highest number of food export, indeed, permits for China. How can high quality food imports like what you mentioned, benefit the Chinese market?
That's a supplement to China's market because China has different ways and channels to import all products all over the world.
Are there going to be any competitions?
Yeah, but I don't think they have a real competition. We should have comparison, not competition. We should always try to have a better and a different taste and different quality, different style.
Yeah.
This is totally, for China, we have so big a population. Even 5% of the population like the Hungary products. That's imagine. That's really
too much already.
So I mean that for Hungary, they don't have too much ambition, but 1-3-4% of population like the products, and the markets in China will welcome this Hungary's food import because they were really a supplement to Chinese products. We have something that are not in full scale, in full variety. So we have to different from Hungary, from other countries to make the gap to meet our demands.
Right, and Hungary has made a very clear policy of opening to the East. It's called Eastern Opening Strategy. Ms. Song, can you tell us more about this strategy? What's it about?
Actually, at the beginning, Hungary, as I said, they want to have their own strategy which can serve their own interests, right? So it means more autonomy rather than listening to what Brussels or what Washington tells them to do. For example, Hungary is not in the Eurozone. They have their own currency, which is foreign. But they had this plan before in 2006 to join the Eurozone. But then after the financial crisis, and they realized actually it would be a terrible idea if they join, because then they will become part of this PIGS country, who could not really afford to pay back the loan. And they had to take more loans because they have to meet the Maastricht criteria. And which means like they cannot have more than 3% of GDP as deficit, and they have to reduce that the country's loan below 60% of their GDP, and they have to take more loan in order to make their to meet this criteria. So they abandoned this idea. They continue to use their own currency because they want to have their own strategy. So opening to the East is actually to have two legs on the ground. One leg is because they are part of the European Union, they are part of NATO, and the other leg is to say like, look, we are part of the Western Bloc, that is true, but we also want to serve our own interests. We have to have a leg in the Euro-Asia continent to have more connectivities with the Eastern partners. Actually, the Eastern partners are not only China, right?
About China, indeed.
Actually, it means all the Eastern Asian countries. But in the end, China became the biggest partner. That's because there are a lot of opportunities for Chinese investors to go there.
And
there is a
huge market.
That is a market-driven approach, which is actually contrary to some Western media's judgment, saying like it's only because the two countries' political cooperation that brought economic, which is not true because there is a market there. That's why the Chinese investors are interested in that.
So it's like what you said, it's a market-driven, it's a very practical approach instead of a political approach to open to the East, and does not only include China, it includes all the Eastern Asian countries. And talking about specific examples of a cooperation between China and Hungary, though, the Budapest and Belgrade Railway is a landmark project under the Belt and Road Initiative. How important exactly is that railway, is that infrastructure to the regional development, Mr. Liu?
As you mentioned, the market-driven, therefore, is the major reason for the close cooperation. But in my opinion, that this is also another factor-driven for both sides. But people from the facts can see that what benefits from China's cooperation. The railway is one fact, because not only the shorten the distance and shorten the travel time from Belgrade to Budapest, but also the high efficiency, high quality management, because the railway management is complex, is totally different with other industrial areas. It's comprehensive one. So with the personnel training, with the timing, with the signals transmission, and all connections, information. So this is a complete project including sophisticated technologies. We need a lot of engineers, high-skilled people there, not only for water drinking, for good supply, but really high-skilled work and engineers. This is really very good example for both sides. And we see that not only the economic benefits from the local government, the local economy, but the social effect and the psychological effect that can tell them what is really good. As you are talking that why they come to East opening. Because at the very beginning after Cold War, all these countries go to West. They try to go to West, but they learned they didn't get anything from the West. So they have to turn back to the East, because the East side, including China, growing up with cooperation, inclusiveness, openness, honesty. So in this way that they can compare which side is good. Right. So that's why they come to the East. This is the right decision.
Yeah, it's reasonable to choose a place or choose a direction with more opportunities.
That's
right. And how, given the focus is like sectors, like what Ms. Song said, the electric vehicle industry, the lithium investment, and presence of Chinese companies like BYD in Hungary. Can you tell us the long-term projections for industrial cooperation between the two countries?
I think there will be definitely more actually investment from Chinese side to Hungary. There are three factors behind. First of all is right now, the European Union set up quite some barriers for Chinese imported actually the whole cars. So actually the best solution for this is to have their own plant within the EU in order to avoid this punitive tariff. But that is not the main, the most important factor. The real factor behind is in order to, European market is a high-end market. In order to actually conquer, let's say, this market, or you have
enter the market.
Yeah, and you really have to adopt a very different approach. Yeah. Not like it's because automotive is not like it's not like a phone. If you are a mobile phone manufacturer, you can just.
Let's take a look at what's happening in Budapest for a while. The Hungarian president and his wife are ready to welcome visiting Chinese President Xi Jinping and his wife Peng Liyuan at the top of the red carpet. And a grand welcoming ceremony is going to be held. We're going to give you more live pictures on the welcoming ceremony later on. It seems that President Xi and his wife Peng Liyuan are going to arrive at any moment. Back to our studio guest. So, yeah, in terms of long-term projections or influences by Chinese either direct investment or cooperation. Okay. So, what are your expectations for bilateral cooperation in terms of those specific areas?
Right. To continue my previous point, I think for EU market, this is a high-end market, and in the field of automotive industry, in order to have a bigger market share rather than 3 or 4%, if you want to really raise to 10 or 20%, you have to be very present in the market in order to make sure that your clients, the consumers, they are assured that you have this after-sales services, and also the branding. And in order to have that, you need to have localized team in Europe. Yeah. And right now, maybe it's not really the perfect time to enter the EU market via Germany or via the other Western European countries, because they all have this kind of quite risky geopolitical environment or attitude towards Chinese investment. So that's why they chose actually Hungary. But also there's another point is Hungary has a very skilled labor force, and 80% of Hungarians can speak English, and 30% of them can speak German fluently. So, which is actually a very good advantage for Chinese investors, because they can build a very Europeanized, I would like to say, image for the EU market.
Okay, let's go to Budapest to see what's going on there. The Hungarian President Tamas Sulyok and his wife are ready to welcome visiting Chinese President Xi Jinping and his wife Peng Liyuan, and they are arriving at the venue of the welcoming ceremony at any moment. And the military honors, that is a very important part of the welcoming ceremony, are held at the Lions Court, or the Lions Yard of the Buddha Castle Palace. And what we're seeing now is the motorcade of Chinese President Xi Jinping and his wife arriving at the venue of the Lions Yard of the Buddha Castle Palace. And this courtyard, as we can see from the picture, is located behind the Savoy Terrace and surrounded by the grand National Széchenyi Library, the History Museum, and also National Gallery. Is a very famous spot in Budapest. It covers an area of 4,400 square meters. And Chinese President Xi Jinping has just arrived at the venue. That grand ceremony, welcoming ceremony, is held for him and his wife, Madame Peng Liyuan, by the Hungarian President Tamas Sulyok and his wife. And as we just said, this year marks the 75th anniversary of the establishment of diplomatic ties between China and Hungary. And Hungary is one of the first nations to establish diplomatic relations with China, and also the first European country to sign the Belt and Road Initiative cooperation document with China. And as we just discussed, the Budapest-Belgrade Railway was a landmark project under this BRI framework, jointly built by China, Hungary, and Serbia. And the relations between China and Hungary is a strategic and mutually beneficial partnership, deeply rooted in historical ties and significantly strengthened by contemporary diplomatic and economic engagement. What we're seeing now is the grand welcoming ceremony held by the Hungarian President Tamas Sulyok and his wife to welcome visiting Chinese President Xi Jinping and his wife, Madame Peng Liyuan. China-Hungary relations has been very stable and solid, and this relationship is especially underscored by Hungary's early participation in China's Belt and Road Initiative, which aligns with Hungary's opening to the East policy. And the two countries have seen substantial cooperation in areas like infrastructure, exemplified by projects like the Hungary-Serbia Railway, as we mentioned, and also technological advancement. And the high-level exchanges between the leaders of the two nations, like the visit paid by President Xi Jinping to Hungary this time, and also including multiple visits and meetings at forums such as the Belt and Road Forum, highlight the strong political goodwill and commitment to deepen ties. And these interactions have often resulted in concrete agreements like the establishment of cultural centers and enhancements in trade relations, particularly in agricultural exports from Hungary to China. And President Xi Jinping's trip this time are expected to bring a lot of agreements being signed as well. A fruitful trip is expected this time. And China and Hungary view each other as a key partner in promoting a multipolar world.
Ízettség, fegyvert, hol! Hopp! Ízettség, fegyvert, hol! No! Ízettség, jobbra! Ad!
After the Chinese and Hungarian anthems being played, what we're seeing now is military honors being held at the Lion's Yard of the Buddha Castle Palace as part of the welcoming ceremony held by the Hungarian president to the visiting Chinese President Xi Jinping and his wife Peng Liyuan. And we can see from the picture this Buddha Castle, which is at the site of the Lion's Yard of Buddha Castle Palace. After the welcoming ceremony, Chinese President Xi Jinping and the Hungarian president will go inside the castle to hold a meeting. And this castle is a historic palace complex. It used to be the royal palace of the Hungarian king. It was first completed in 1265, and the castle sits on the southern tip of Castle Hill. It's famous for its medieval, Baroque and neoclassical style. as you can see, and is part of the Budapest World Heritage Site. It's just a rough understanding about the meeting place between both presidents later on here. And bilateral relations between China and Hungary is viewed by both countries as a model of international cooperation characterized by respect, mutual benefit, and the strategic partnership aimed at long-term sustainable development. You're watching CGTN special coverage on the welcoming ceremony held by the Hungarian president to the visiting Chinese President Xi Jinping and his wife, Peng Liyuan. And military honors are being held right now at the Buddha Castle Palace, the Lion's Yard of the Buddha Castle Palace. The Chinese President Xi Jinping's visit to Hungary as part of his European tour holds a significant importance. This visit actually marks a continuation of deepening ties between China and Hungary, particularly emphasizing the strengthening of their comprehensive strategic partnership. This is the military honors held at the Lion's Yard of the Buddha Castle Palace as part of the grand welcoming ceremony held for visiting Chinese President Xi Jinping. And during his visit, President Xi is expected to engage in discussions with Hungarian leaders, including President Tamas Sulyok and Prime Minister Viktor Orban, on a variety of bilateral and international issues. And this visit is actually seen as a milestone aligning with the 75th anniversary of diplomatic relations between the two countries. And this occasion is viewed as an opportunity to further elevate bilateral relations, open new chapters in cooperation, and also inject positive energy into China-EU relations amid a turbulent global context, of course. And as we mentioned, that China views its relationship with Hungary as a model of cooperation benefiting both nations economically and politically. And during the visit, the discussions between both leaders are likely to cover further cooperation in areas such as economic investments and infrastructural projects like the Budapest-Belgrade Railway, which are significant components of China's Belt Road initiative. And these projects not only signify economic ties, but also strategic engagement in the region. Chinese President Xi Jinping is meeting with the Hungarian officials after the military honors held to welcome him. And this visit is expected to underscore the mutual benefits of the relationship with China, aiming to showcase the success of its cooperation with Hungary as a cornerstone for its engagements across Central and Eastern Europe. This strategic alignment is seen as crucial for advancing regional stability and development, reflecting China's broader goals of fostering a community with a shared future for humanity. And also, this visit is positioned as a significant diplomatic effort by China to solidify its ties with Hungary and, by extension, enhance its relations with Europe, emphasizing mutual respect, economic cooperation, and shared development goals. And now, it's time for the Hungarian president to meet the Chinese officials, members of the visiting delegations headed by President Xi Jinping. In October 2023, Hungarian Prime Minister Viktor Orban visited China for the third time to attend the Belt and Road International Cooperation Summit. During his meeting with President Xi Jinping, Orban expressed Hungary's firm belief that the joint construction of BRI would bring significant changes to the world, promote global economic development. All right, that was the grand welcoming ceremony held by the Hungarian President Tamas Sulyok for the visiting Chinese President Xi Jinping and his wife Peng Liyuan. And after that, they will enter the Buddha Castle Palace for a meeting to discuss a variety of issues concerning the bilateral cooperation and common interests as well. Now let's get back to our studio guest. China and Hungary, that was a grand welcoming ceremony showcasing the sincerity of Hungary to welcome Chinese president's visit. I think it's much more than that. They welcome China's cooperation that could pour in after this visit. So what opportunities, more potentials, more opportunities are going to be brought by this high-level visit by President Xi Jinping, Ms. Song?
Well, I think earlier we mentioned a lot of industrial cooperation, and right now I think it's also a time to look into a technological cooperation. Just like Professor Liu just mentioned, that actually in the area of AI and big data and in cloud and computing, all this kind of area, there's a huge space actually for bilateral bilateral cooperation. Because as I mentioned earlier, Hungary has a very well educated workforce, and they can actually, there are lots of good engineers every year getting out of the universities in Hungary. So if there is some joint research program or joint research center, I think that can create some new synergy for Sino-Hungarian technological cooperation. That is one side. The second point I want to say is actually the culture exchanges and also people to people in general. Because as you mentioned, like agriculture export increased a lot, like for both sides, I think. And for the Chinese consumers, actually it is very interesting to taste the tokai and to have some, even paprika, I think, because
actually President Xi Jinping described bilateral relations as the tokai wine.
Right.
It's a very tastes very good and has a promising future.
Right, because it tastes actually a little bit sweet, much sweeter than the French and the German wine. So this gives some more imagination for the bilateral relationship in the future. And I think in order to actually bring all the people from two sides together to a little bit narrow down the gap between the two cultures, I think the good thing is to build up, continue to build up this kind of culture center in both countries. Because if you look at the Chinese investment in Hungary, it's not only in Budapest, it's in Debrecen, it's in Szeged, it's all over the country. It means actually the whole country, all the Hungarians, the Hungarian society, they need to increase also their knowledge on China. And there should be more people who are knowledgeable on how to deal with Chinese people, how to deal with Chinese consumers and tourists. So I think there should be more investment in that direction as well.
Yeah, when we talked about bilateral relations between China and Serbia yesterday. Actually, our experts said that Serbia could serve as a bridge between China and EU countries. I mean, so you worked in the European Parliament for quite a while, for several years. According to your observation, how could Hungary serve? Do you think Hungary could serve as a bridge in that function as well, to bridge relationship between China and EU?
Well, certainly, I think especially this year, because from July, Hungary is going to be the country who holds the presidency of the EU for 6 months. So I think the second half of this year is going to be a great starting point to rebuild actually the lost trust between like Brussels and China. So beyond that, I think in long term, Hungary serves to actually present a good example. Like to say, like as Professor Liu just mentioned, it's a showcase to say like there is still a lot of space for Sino-European cooperation. There's more complementarity to be discovered, and the only thing is whether you can really look at it from a pragmatic actually approach rather than from a purely ideological perspective.
And culturally, you mentioned the cultural exchanges between China and Hungary. Actually, the two countries, although thousands of miles away from each other, but they share a lot of similarities. And both of you have been to Hungary, right, multiple times, as far as I know. So, Mr. Liu, according to your observations, what kind of cultural similarities do the two countries share, apart from putting the surnames first and the first name second?
I think at the moment many people have different expression or understanding about the culture exchanges. Many people always believe that the language learning and also other movie exchanges and other sport exchanges, for instance, this belongs to the cultural exchange. But actually we have also different perspective in the culture sense. I mean, it represents not only culture itself, it included different areas, including high technology, AI, and also the advanced ideological thought or the feeling. As when Hungary is very famous for its own independent freedom, the ideology in the history. So I think it has a good example for China and the rest of the world. So how to have such a deepening exchange of cultural exchanges, then expanded from culture to economically.
Right.
So that's will make a great sense because culture is a booster. The economy is a fruit. From both sides can be really coordinated how to further develop it. So in this way, I mean that Hungary is really a good base for China's culture to be developed, expanded, and promoted in European areas. It's interesting to tell you, my friends in Austria, bankers, they origin mainly from Hungary, 100 years before. They always believe that the Hungary are very talented people with great potential and great innovation capability. So that's why they believe that the cooperation between East and West, China and Hungary, will be a very excellent example for both sides, not only for the bilateral relations, but also for, as we always mention, the rest of the European countries. They have to look at what we are doing, what we can experience, what we can learn from each other. What the major is what we can benefit from such cooperation. So, but the culture is something like a means that to stimulate, to manipulate of these relations in the future.
Right. I think the mutual or exchanges, cultural exchanges between China and Hungary has been very healthy. We listened to the music of Liszt, the great composer, and the Hungarian people are learning Chinese very hard. It's listed as one of the exams in their college entrance examination. I think that's a quite important factor here. Okay, I'll be getting back to you for more discussions on bilateral relations between China and Hungary a moment later. Now, Hungary and China are joining hands to construct one of Central and Eastern Europe's largest solar energy storage facilities, and the aim is to double Hungary's energy storage capacity and also boost the role of green energy. Pablo Gutierrez has more details.
Even when clouds dim the sky, Hungary aims to maintain its solar energy production. On the outskirts of Sulyok, Hungary, near one of the largest solar farms in the country, Hungarian and Chinese companies are building a $22 million solar energy storage facility. The government says this initiative will help bolster Hungary's power generation capacity.
So the main problem or difficulty with solar that the sun is not always shining, the energy is fluctuating, but the consumption needs to always be in balance with the production. And that's why these batteries are a good opportunity to have this balancing in the system.
Barheli says that the electric batteries in this project will store energy when production solar peaks and release it when demand is high. This could also help Hungary reduce its reliance on non-renewable energy sources.
Yeah, so this is the main goal for the electrification. We would like to reduce the gas consumption of the country, and we would like to put all the other generation to renewables, so mainly solar, but possibly wind also.
Currently, Hungary relies mainly on nuclear and natural gas to produce electricity. Solar energy generated through photovoltaic cells converting sunlight into electricity contributes to around 13% of the total energy mix. But this is likely to change as the country steps up efforts to boost solar energy.
Hungary's government says that storing more of the sun's rays collected in solar farms like this one will help it achieve one of its main climate goals of becoming carbon neutral by 2050.
Forestbuild, the Hungarian company building the storage facility in Sulyok, says the project will double Hungary's solar energy storage capacity from 30 megawatt hours to 60. Experts say this will give Hungary an edge over other countries in the region.
We are interconnecting countries, which means that Hungary has strong connection with Slovakia, Austria, even the Ukrainian connection started to work, but we are connected to the Serbian and other system. It means that in a situation when we are producing more photovoltaic, we can easily sell it to the other countries.
The energy storage facility will be operational by next summer, according to the Hungarian government, which also plans to build more facilities like this one across the country. Barheli says China's support is crucial for these projects.
They are really advanced in battery energy storage systems, and the supplier of the energy storage and power conversion system of our current projects is Huawei. They are a really strong partner of our company.
This partnership, Barheli says, could bring a bright new era for Hungary's clean energy production. Pablo Gutierrez, Budapest.
And here's Pablo Gutierrez sitting down with President of the Hungarian Banking Association, Orban Zelasic. Let's hear his ideas on the future economic relations between China and Hungary.
China is and has been for the last decade one of the most prosperous and more dynamic countries for the Hungarian trade. We had 7.6 billion euros of FDIs in 2023. We expect this number almost to double in the next couple of years. And I think also for the Chinese investors, Hungary obviously plays a major role as far as investment in Central Eastern Europe is concerned. I think it's also important to mention that in addition to the chemical industry that is already here from China, in addition to telecommunication into the banking sector, we are also expecting some other additional investment, especially in the automobile industry. The new ones that are coming, that are already in the way, is among others cattle, but also BYD, which is going to build up a factory in Szeged. So we are all excited, and we are hoping that is going to boost the future economic relationships as well then.
Now, we have the Belt and Road Initiative.
that is currently developing the railway between Belgrade and Budapest, and also this oil pipeline between Hungary and Serbia. Aside from that, what has been the impact in the Hungarian economy of the BRI?
Listen, we are aware that infrastructure developments are representing, so to say, the backbone of the sustainable and long-term economic growth. In addition to the issues already mentioned, let me just raise the fact that there are weekly 17 direct flights between Hungary and China, which is also cementing, so to say, the good relationship. As far as I'm aware, there is no other country in the CE where there are more direct flights from China than to Hungary. I think it's very important. And I do hope that this also represents, so to say, a good welcome to all the Chinese businessmen who are coming over to Europe, because obviously then Hungary is going to be one of the major board and major, so to say, jumping stones for all of their businesses in Central and Eastern Europe. You already mentioned the Budapest-Belgrade train. That infrastructural piece fits perfectly into the South-North relationship between Piraeus through the Western Balkans all over to Budapest, and we do hope that this is also contribute to a cheaper, faster, and economically more reliable relationship between not only Hungary and China, but between European Union and China as well then.
All right, that's all for our special coverage on the grand ceremony held for visiting Chinese President Xi Jinping and his wife, Peng Liyuan. We leave you with a quick look back at some key moments of President Xi's visit to Hungary so far. I'm Li Dongning in Beijing. Thank you for watching, and stay with CGTN for more live coverage on President Xi's visit to Hungary.